Hey guys, welcome back to Angular 10 Spring Boot CRUD full stack application tutorials series. In previous video we have created employee list component which will display a list of employees on a web page like this, and we have created some dummy data and we have populated a dummy data on a web page. In this video we are going to create an Angular service which will make in turn a REST API call, and we will populate a REST API response data on a web page. Alright, so before implementing Angular service in our Angular application, let's quickly have an overview of Angular service. We use Angular service to share the data among various components in Angular application. Sometimes we want to write a similar piece of code in various components. So instead of repeating same code in various components in Angular application, we can keep a common code in an Angular service, and we can inject that Angular service in required components so that we can reuse the same code. So to achieve this, we can use Angular service. And Angular provides a dependency injection feature. So dependency injection feature make the testing and debugging very simple. A component can delegate certain tasks to the services, such as fetching data from the server, validating user input, or logging directly to the console. So validating user input and logging, so these are the common code which required to reuse in different components. So this common code we can write in Angular service, and we can inject that service in various components to call these services. And inside Angular service we can write a REST client code which in turn make a REST API call, and we can inject Angular service in an Angular component so that Angular component can delegate this task like fetching data from the server to the service. Now service is responsible to fetch the data from the server. Well, to define a class as a service in Angular, we use @injectable decorator to provide the metadata that allows Angular to inject into a component as a dependency. Alright, so we'll see more about @injectable decorator once we create Angular service in our Angular application. So look at here. In this video we are going to create an Angular service which in turn use HttpClient module to make a REST API call, and we inject employee service in different components, and different components will call methods of employee service. Alright guys, let's go ahead and let's create employee service in our Angular application. So switch to the integrated terminal and make sure that you are in a root folder of your application, and let's use Angular CLI to generate Angular service. Just type the command ng and G for generate, S for service, followed by name of the service. Let's give a service as employee. Hit enter. So this command created two files. Alright, if you expand app folder, within a app folder you can see employee.service.ts and employee.service.spec.ts. so these are the two files created by this command, Angular CLI command. Go ahead and click on employee.service.ts and look at here, this is the employee service. So basically this is a TypeScript class which is annotated with @injectable decorator. So this @injectable decorator marks this TypeScript class as as a provider, and it can be injected into various components. Alright, and this service is provided at a root level. Now let's go ahead and let's use HttpClient module to make a REST API call. So before that, make sure that your Spring Boot application is up and running and you are able to access REST endpoints. Let's go ahead and let's access one of the REST API. In a browser, just type localhost 8080/API/v1/employees. So this will gives you an array of employees as a response. Well, our application is up and running and we can able to access the employee list REST API. Now let's go ahead and let's use HttpClient module to call this REST endpoint. So just follow the steps. So first step is go to the app module And app module use depends on HTTP client module. In order to use HTTP client, here just type HTTP client module. Alright, and make sure that HTTP client module is imported at the top. Just type the statement import within a curly braces HTTP client module from @angular /common/http. Alright, so HTTP client module is present in package angular /common/http. Alright, so this is the first step. So make sure that we import HTTP client module in imports array of app module. Now second step is go ahead and inject HTTP client in employee service. So go back to the employee service again, and here in the constructor we are going to inject HTTP client module, private, and then HTTP client, and this is HTTP client. And make sure that we import HTTP client from the Angular package, and let's go ahead and let's import HTTP client at the top. HTTP client from, it should be from Angular package angular /common/http. Great. Now we have imported HTTP client module and we have injected in employee service using constructor. Now let's go ahead and let's define the property here, private, and let's say base URL, and we are going to define a base URL for our REST endpoints. Go to the browser and just copy this URL. So this is going to be a base URL of all the CRUD REST APIs. Copy and paste here and save the file. Let's go ahead and let's create a method. Let's say get employees list followed by colon and just call observable. So make sure that observable imported from RxJS library at the top, and then we need to provide a type here. Type is array of employees, because this REST endpoint API returns array of employee objects. So for that we need to pass employee array like this. Now let's go ahead and let's return this dot HTTP client and then call get. So we are going to make a get request, right? For that we are going to call get method, and we are going to pass a parameter to the get method, that is base URL. So look at here, we need to use a backstick here, not a single quote. Okay, and then dollar within the curly braces this dot base URL. Okay, and here the return type is employee array, right? So let's just pass this array of employee to the get method like this. Yeah, here we go. So this looks good, right? So this is an observable, and we are going to subscribe for this observable object in component. If you look at the documentation of get method, so get method basically it constructs a get request that interprets the body as a JSON object and returns the response body in the given type. And if you look at the return type of the get method, it returns observable of the HTTP response. Okay, it returns basically observable object. Now let's go back to the component, employee list component, and let's go ahead and let's inject employee service in employee list component. Go to the constructor and here type private and then employee service, and make sure that we import employee service at the top. Import within a curly braces employee service from employee service. Okay, so once we inject employee service in employee list component, we can call employee service methods. So in previous video we have created some dummy data right here inside ng on init method. So let's go ahead and delete this data, and let's create a method here, this dot get employees. Okay, and just define this method here. Let's say private get employees, and here we are going to call employee service and then get employee list method. So this method returns observable object, right? So we can go ahead and we can subscribe to this method. So basically it does asynchronous call, and this subscribe will call once it get the data. And to the subscribe method we are going to handle the response of the REST API, and data followed by arrow syntax, and here we're going to assign a response to the employees property. It's pretty simple, right? So this is the response data, and we assign this response data to the employees property. So this employees property is array of employee objects. Alright guys, let's save the file and let's go back to the browser and let's see whether we get a successful response from the server or not. Here if you refresh, you can see here admin employee is successfully populated on the employee list page. So this is the REST API that we have invoked from the Angular service, and same response we have printed on in a table. Now open MySQL Workbench and let's add a few more records to the table so that we'll see a few more records in a web page. Let's say ID 30 and first name Ramesh. So this is the email ID, right? Ramesh@gmail.com. First name Ramesh, last name Fartare, and ID 31, email ID sina@gmail.com. First name John, last name Sina, and apply and finish. Okay, let's go back to the browser and let's go ahead and let's refresh, and here we go. So Ramesh and John, so these are the two employees we have just inserted in database, and it's the same employees record we have successfully got from the REST API and we have populated on a web page. Alright guys, we have successfully created a list employee feature. In next video we'll configure routing in our Angular application. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.